Do you also feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing changes? That even though you're immersed in affirmations, visualizations, and attempts to maintain a good vibe, it seems like life only tests you even more? Well, it's me too. And maybe you, like me, have gotten it all wrong. This channel is not just about stories, it is about hidden codes. Codes that are behind the reality you live in, and perhaps without realizing it, you have been trying to decipher them for years. Here, each case is a key, a clue, a mirror of what you may also be experiencing. Today, what you are about to hear seems impossible, but when you understand the universal laws, the impossible becomes just misunderstood. My name is Adam, and for a long time I believed I was manifesting the right way. I was obsessed with doing everything the right way. I repeated phrases with conviction, visualized with emotion, tried to control every negative thought that appeared. I truly believed that the universe was about to deliver everything I wanted. But instead, my life started to get worse, and I kept thinking it was my fault and that I had let some negative thought pass by without realizing it. It was as if the more I tried, the more things got out of control. Projects that were going well suddenly fell apart. Relationships that seemed solid fell apart. And I sat there, trying to figure out where I was going wrong, because, theoretically, I was doing everything right. I said, the universe is abundant, I trust I am worthy. But inside, I was begging for change, reacting to the chaos, trying to force reality to bend to my will. And that was the key I didn't see. I wasn't co-creating. I was trying to prove, force, correct, as if I needed to convince something external. And the more I did that, the more reality responded to what I really felt: doubt, lack, fear. It was when I changed one thing that until then I thought made no difference, that everything began to fall into place. It wasn't a magical click. It wasn't a sudden enlightenment. It was a shattering, a silent internal collapse, barely noticeable on the outside, but devastating on the inside. And maybe you're at that exact point right now. If you are going through this, if you feel that no matter how hard you try, life seems to be pushing you in the opposite direction, comment here. It seems the law is against me, because I've been there. And what I'm going to show you here might be exactly what you need to hear right now. Stay with me until the end, because I'm not just going to tell you what happened. I'm going to show you the blind spot that almost destroyed my faith, and that today makes me live with ease. If this beginning has touched something in you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. The journey is just beginning, and it will surprise you. I know exactly when it all started to escalate. It didn't happen overnight. It was subtle, silent, a collection of small emotional leaks that I ignored because I supposedly knew what I was doing. But inside, I was in shambles. Every time something got out of my control, I reacted. I tried to understand exactly where I had failed. I reacted always, as if reality was challenging me and I needed to overcome it. And the worst part is that I called it faith. I told myself, just stay focused, just keep the vibration going. But behind that strength, what really existed was desperation. I remember checking my phone as if I were looking for a divine sign, a message, a call, some coincidence that said, it's going to be okay. And when it didn't come, when everything stayed the same, or worse, the hole opened up a little more. Even situations that I considered certain started not happening. I started to question everything. I repeated mantras with my teeth clenched, as if I was forcing the universe to obey me. I trust, I trust, I trust. But it was a lie. Deep down, I didn't trust. I just wanted to stop feeling that pain, that absence, that silent anguish, that maybe nothing would change. I would wake up with my heart racing, anxious before I even opened my eyes, because my mind was already racing. Will it happen today? Revealing my growing anxiety. And if something went wrong early on, there I was, trying to fix everything with more affirmations, more visualizations, more effort. It was as if I had a box of spiritual tools and was using them all at once, hoping that one would finally work. And when nothing happened, I felt like a failure. Not like someone who had failed, but like someone who had been ignored by the universe, abandoned by something that promised to respond to the vibration, but seemed to be deaf. I would walk down the street and look at everyone else as if they were all living a better life than me. And I would think, what am I doing wrong? I'm really trying. And that was the cruelest part, because yes, I was trying hard, trying with faith, but it was that very strength, that trying, that was keeping me from what I wanted. I was trying too much and reacting dull. At the slightest delay, at someone's silence, at the no I received, I would dive into questions, into existential queries. It was as if I had a radar always on, looking for proof that the manifestation was working. And every time I didn't find this proof, I would increase my effort. The truth is that I was waging a silent war with reality, and I believed that this was spirituality. I thought I was doing everything consciously, but in practice I was just trying to push the universe where I wanted it to go. I thought that he should go. It was control disguised as faith, fear disguised as positivity, and with every reaction I made, I was unknowingly reinforcing the very vibration I wanted to change. I was stuck in a cycle, a loop of effort, frustration, and tired hope, and the more I reacted, the more I fed the very thing I wanted to stop. And that's where most people get lost, because the external chaos begins to seem stronger than any internal belief. And when the mind screams, it's hard to remember what the heart knew. But there, right at that point, something in me started to give way, not by enlightenment, but out of exhaustion. And this is where things finally started to change. Not on the outside, but inside. I don't remember the exact day. There was no background music, no light from the sky coming through the window, no magic phrase waking me up like in a movie. It was just tiredness, a different silence, a pause between thoughts that for some reason was not filled with fear or doubt. I was exhausted, tired of trying to convince the universe, tired of looking for signs, of correcting every feeling, of monitoring every word, tired of carrying the weight of always needing to be on the right frequency. And in that tiredness, something inside me simply stopped. I remember sitting on the floor of my room without the strength to do one more visualization. My eyes were open, but my mind was empty. For the first time, I didn't want to understand or change or control. I just wanted to let go. It is impossible to fight the universe. It's a futile battle. And it was in this space, almost without wanting to, that something different happened. I didn't scream to the universe. I didn't ask for anything else. I just felt an acceptance that I had never felt before. It was not conformism. It was a quiet certainty. And I'll accept whatever happens that came from within, even if nothing around me had changed. Until then, I had always assumed that this kind of turning point came with some kind of ritual or revelation. But it came in the form of a surrender. An internal surrender. It wasn't about giving up what I wanted. It was about letting go of the need to control how and when it would come. And when I let it out, everything felt strangely light, not better, but light. The urgency disappeared. The rush evaporated. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was chasing anything. I just felt peace. That's when I realized that my biggest block was never doubt. It was the constant attempt to prove, to measure, to control. I wasn't waiting for the manifestation to happen. I was trying to push it into my reality as if it was something separate from me. And what happened in that moment was the opposite of that. I just accepted it. I accepted that what I desired wasn't coming. It was already here, inside. And that all I needed was to align myself, vibrationally, with this silent certainty. It wasn't when everything got better on the outside. It was when I accepted it on the inside. No proof, no guarantees, I just assumed it. And the universe, like a mirror that until then had only reflected my haste, began to reflect this new frequency, and it didn't happen in a day. But in that instant, I began to leave differently, even though nothing, absolutely nothing, had changed on the outside. It was an invisible shift, vibrational, a turning point so subtle that if I had been too busy trying to understand it, I might not have even noticed. I felt free, and anyone who has ever felt this knows there comes a time when you stop running after and start walking together. That's when everything changed. Or rather, that's when I began to change. And this change, silent as it was, began to make noise within reality soon after. In that silence where I had stopped reacting, something began to reveal itself to me, not as an answer coming from outside, but as a reminder of something I had always known but had forgotten. It was as if a truth had been there all along, waiting for me to stop making noise inside so it could finally be heard. And it was at that moment that I truly understood what the law of assumption is. Not like a pretty theory or an idea repeated in videos, but like something alive, real, working all the time. The law of assumption doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you assume to be true. And that's exactly when it all made sense. Because I wanted so many things: love, stability, recognition, peace. But what I was getting was assuming. Vibrationally, it was lack, it was effort, it was desperation. On the outside, I said I trust, but on the inside, what I felt was, it's not coming, I'm not enough, there won't be enough time. And that's when reality responds. Not to what you say, but to what you vibrate as identity. I realized that I wasn't being rejected by the universe. I was just being mirrored. The universe wasn't deaf to my requests. It was just showing me, accurately, what I believed I was. And the more I tried to manifest, the more I confirmed, without realizing it, that I wasn't that yet. Because if you have to try that hard, you still don't assume that is. You don't wait to see to believe, you believe, and then you see. It sounds simple, but it carries a power that changes everything. Because when you understand this, you begin to realize that your reality was never out there. It is just a reflection of what you hold inside, even when you try to say otherwise. The mind is a mirror, and the mirror does not change with your effort. It changes when you change what is being reflected. And I realized that all this time I was trying to change the mirror without changing the image. I was trying to convince the reflection without changing the source. It was hard to accept this, because it seemed like all my effort, all my dedication, all that spiritual commitment had been useless. But they weren't. They brought me to this clarity. They made me see that the turning point was no longer about doing more or doing it right. It was about being the one who already is, the one who already has, the one who already lives the desired reality internally with such silent conviction that the universe has no other option but to mirror it. And it was there at that exact point that something began to rearrange itself. Not in the world yet, but inside me. Because when your identity changes, even silently, reality begins to bend. Slowly at first. Then, almost like magic. But it's not magic. It's law. And when this law is understood, it no longer needs to be forced. It just needs to be lived. I want to make it clear that the changes did not come with fireworks, not even with big events. They came silently, just as everything began to change inside me. First, there were the little things. I stopped reacting to the mirror. Situations that would have previously left me desperate now passed without causing much impact. That delay at work, which before would have made me rethink my whole life, now seemed like just a delay. One detail. I began to realize that the world no longer activated me in the same way, and that in itself was a miracle. I was no longer chasing signs. They began to appear on their own. Subtle coincidences, unlikely encounters, words that someone blurted out without realizing it, and that seemed to speak directly to my soul. I no longer needed to scream for confirmation, because suddenly life began to respond, not to my requests, but to my new vibration. A vibration without haste, without proof, without weight. People started treating me differently. Some told me I was lighter, others said my energy had changed. And I knew exactly why. It wasn't because I read more books or because I finally got the technique right. It was because, for the first time, I stopped reacting like someone who is fighting life and started acting like someone who already knows. Someone who already is. Even when nothing around me pointed to it yet, and even if what I wanted didn't come, everything was fine because the peace and freedom I was experiencing already completed me. One day, sitting in a cafe, I received a connection that months before would have completely destabilized me. It was yet another rejection for a project I had submitted, and there in that moment I realized that something inside me was not shaken. I thanked him, hung up, and continued my coffee. That was new, very new. I didn't need to rush to meditate, or correct thoughts, or make an emergency affirmation, because inside, everything was already fine. And it was from this new vibrational identity, silent and firm, that bigger things began to move. Opportunities that I wasn't looking for began to appear. People who had walked away came back different. Doors that had been closed for years began to open gently, not because I pushed, but because I stopped knocking. The universe just did what it always did, reflect. But this time it was reflecting a new version of me, a version that didn't beg. That didn't negotiate with life. That just assumed that everything was in order even when it seemed like chaos. And that was the real plot twist, realizing that reality was never punishing me, it was never against me, it was just obeying who I believed it was. And the most amazing thing is that when you change at this level, reality begins to reorganize itself around you with an intelligence that cannot be explained by logic. What was once a struggle becomes a flow. What was once a resistance becomes a direction. And everything that seemed stuck begins little by little to align itself, not by magic, but by correspondence. Because finally, the mirror was reflecting something new, something true, something whole. If at any point in your journey you also felt like you were trying too hard, pushing too hard, expecting too much, and still nothing changed, this video spoke to parts of you that you might not even know how to name. If this resonated with you, write it in the comments below. I changed inside. This phrase is not just symbolic. It is a vibrational commitment to this new posture that you are assuming from now on. And if this message touched you in any way, leave a like. This will help this reflection reach more people who are also ready to stop fighting with reality and start living it in alignment. Take advantage and subscribe to the channel, because this journey is just beginning and there is much more to come. In the next episode, you will learn the story of someone who seemed to live in an endless cycle of loss and blockages until she understood what her vibration was hiding. A turn so unexpected that it transformed scarcity into harmony, doubt into power, and maybe she will show you something that you are also ready to see.